Have you ever wondered what happened on this exact day in St. Louis back in history? Well, we know Show Me St. Louis started, but now there's one man who has all the answers. So joining us live, we have author Joe Sonderman. Author Joe, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So this book is all about what happened on this specific day in St. Louis history. Why did you first want to write this?
You know, it's funny. Ever since I was a kid, I've had an interest in St. Louis history. It's so broad and it has so many great things. And I started collecting. The old Globe Democrat used to run a Day in History feature.
Okay.
I started collecting those when I was a kid, and I had this big collection built up. I got into radio. I decided I wanted to do a This Day in St. Louis history feature, because that's a good way to kill 10 minutes on the radio, is what happened on this day in history. And so I had this big collection. I put together a database. Next thing you know, it's a book. And
it's a book.
Yeah,
Incredible.
it's funny how that works.
That is. So after all of these years of collecting, what would you have to say has been your favorite day in history?
I love April 30th. I love April 30th because that is the day that not only was the Louisiana Purchase completed, which of course admitted St. Louis to the United States, but it's also the day that the St. Louis World's Fair opened in 1904, and it's also the day in 1926 when they named the highway from Chicago to Los Angeles.
Wow.
Which of course is Route 66, which is another love of mine.
Okay, and you were just telling me, how many books have you written about Route 66?
I have written 9 on Route 66. I've written 18 books altogether. This is my 18th, and 9 of them are on Route 66.
Incredible, incredible. So why don't you take us through some of your favorite facts from this book?
I'm a traffic reporter, so I think the favorite thing that I learned was where our names come from.
Okay.
Not just roads, but the favorite thing I learned is, what does Florissant mean? What does Hazelwood mean? Who was James Kirkwood? Who was Pierre Ledoux? Who was the Count de Frontenac? Why do we have a plaza named after him? And all those things like that. I enjoyed learning the names. Who was Edward Hall? Why did he have a ferry? Why do we drive on Lucas and Hunt Road? Who was Lucas? Who was Hunt?
Who was Lucas and Hunt?
They were a married couple. They were married, and so they were landowners in what is now Normandy, and so now we have Lucas and Hunt.
Oh my goodness, you are just a wealth of information. And what I love is you have the history, but also you mentioned you're a traffic reporter, so he also has the present.
Yeah. I have to keep an eye on the roads of today while I talk about the roads of yesterday.
Yes, no kidding. Yeah. Okay, Joe, so you have an upcoming book signing, correct?
I've got a couple coming up. The next one is going to be in Pacific. It'll be on September 12th in Pacific at the famous Red Cedar Inn on Route 66.
Fantastic.
And that's at 6 p.m. and I hope everyone will come out, because authors never like to be sitting at a table by themselves. We like to have people coming up and having to sign our books and talk to you. We have a nightmare about sitting at a table all by ourselves. So that'll be the next one. And then I'm going to have a bunch more. And you can watch my Facebook page, Vintage St. Louis, to find out where all the signings are going to be.
Okay, my goodness. We're going to have all that information right there on your screen. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today. So all of that history and more can be found on this day in St. Louis history.